In today's episode of the Crackin Backs podcast, we're joined by functional medicine expert Dr. Brandon Lundell. We all know what a smart house is, but what about a healthy house? Dr. Lundell reveals how to turn a home into a wellness sanctuary, from improving air quality to choosing the right building materials. He's sharing his top 5 tips you can start using today to create a healthier living space. Don't miss this essential guide for every homeowner. Tune in.
All right, we're excited to have Dr. Lundell back on because he left us with something on the last show, and that is he just blurted out in one of his mini rants that he built a healthy home. And I've never heard that term, healthy home. We've heard smart home, we've heard have a happy home, a loving home, but we've never heard of having a healthy home. Well, anyway, we'll get into that. Welcome back in the show. We're so happy to see you. Colorado looks great, so we're happy to have you back on, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a lot of fun.
So, all right, let's start off. Since we mentioned it, we've heard of the term smart home. Like I said, happy home, loving home. But what is a healthy home, and what are the main things that separate these terms?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that their homes are the greatest source of toxins, right? These toxins that we can't see, touch, smell, taste, hear, we're not alerted to them, but they're everywhere, right? The EPA has done lots of studies on indoor air quality, and the indoor air quality is sometimes 5 to 10, on average, 5 to 10 times more toxic than outdoor air. And this is even in urban settings, right? So it's not just, somebody who's in a downtown area, but it's everywhere. And it's because of these building materials and furniture and things that we put in our house. So the first and foremost is just to kind of be aware that, our homes are a huge source of toxins and endocrine disruptors. They disrupt our endocrine system, right? Hormones. So you can't have a healthy home, a happy home, or a smart home, right? If you've got all those toxins running around. They affect our brains, and they're related to Alzheimer's and all kinds of stuff. So a healthy home is a home that actually goes through and looks at these building materials and uses building materials and alternatives that truly are healthy. And the other distinction that I like to make is there's a difference between a healthy home and a green home, right? So a lot of people think green homes are healthy for you, but not necessarily. So green homes are homes that use materials that have been recycled, right? That are, less carbon emissions, that are healthier for the planet, but they're not necessarily healthier for you. A classic example is, like decking that's made out of recycled rubber and plastic and tires. Well, man, that stuff breaks down over time. It is so toxic. You walk on it, you eat on it, and that's those plastics, microplastics, those phthalates, those, PCBs, they're getting into your system. And these are called forever chemicals. Do you know why they're called forever chemicals?
They probably take forever to break down.
Yeah, they once they get in your system, they're almost, unless you go after them and specifically detox, they're pretty much in your system forever. And then they get stored in our brain tissues and in our organs, and over time they just do a lot of damage. And as I said before, related to cancers and related to fertility issues and related to brain and cognitive function and even obesity and weight gain and all that stuff. So I've been doing, as I said last time, I've been doing functional medicine 20 years, and the more I do this and the more I work with patients, the more I study, because I teach functional medicine too. This is such a big piece for our patients and for our family, for our loved ones to pay attention to this, to really pay attention to this. So I'm sure you have questions about what's the most toxic stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if you guys had this problem in your areas, but we had, it was very unsuspecting, but Chinese drywall was
Yeah.
used. And did that happen across the United States, or was that, I mean, I
Well,
just got inundated with words from people in Florida.
you know, I don't know about drywall up here because we're in Colorado, so we usually get stuff from from the Pacific but what I remember about that is about 10 years ago there's a place called Lumber Liquidators. It's like a cheap Home Depot for flooring, and they are repeatedly finding stuff shipped in from China, the hardwood floors and stuff like that, that is thousands of times above the EPA safe levels for formaldehyde, right? Thousands of times, not just thousands of percent, but thousands of times higher. And, so it's coming from all over the world. Stuff that's produced here is certainly a little bit better, but it's kind of the end user applications that are really the most harmful. So what we're doing with them in the homes, what contractors and subcontractors, and workers are actually doing with it, that makes it even more dangerous. But the thing about EPA regulations, it's interesting that you bring this up too, because there's when you walk through Home Depot and you go through the paint aisle, and paints is a really big source of toxins, right? It really is, and they continue to outgas for years and years and years. Well, you go through the paint aisle and everything says low VOC or no VOC, right? VOCs are volatile organic compounds. It is such a big issue that people are alerted to that. However, there's only about 12 regulated VOCs, okay? And there are hundreds that are used in an average can of paint. So all that paint company has to do is remove those 12 to say that there are no VOCs. And they can have 100 others in there, or dozens of others, and it's not regulated. The FDA says, we don't have enough information on that, so it's safe. And this is something that's really important too about chemicals that a lot of people don't realize. Whether it is building materials or cosmetics or anything chemical in this country, do you know how safety is regulated? So how does a drug get to a market? How does a drug get to a market?
Trials and
has to be tested, right?
Testing.
They have to prove at least some level, right, of safety, which doesn't always work.
Yeah, right.
But the onus is on the drug manufacturer to prove some level of safety. Well, with chemicals, the exact opposite exists. It's the consumer has to prove that it's toxic in order to get it off the market. So this goes back to Carnegie and Rockefeller when they started producing all these chemicals that have never been done before. I mean, the chemists. That's when the chemical age really came alive. Was as they started to work with petroleum, right? And they found oil and they found petroleum and they started to come up with cars and make gas, and they had all of these toxic byproducts that they said, hey, they paid chemists a lot of money to say, come up with something useful for this so that we can sell it. And so that's how petroleum jelly came out, and that's how medications and other chemical, cleaners and stuff like that started to come out. And so they were really good. And I watched a PBS program about this. They were really good at the time of making laws favorable to them, right? I mean, right? They were billionaires. They were the modern day billionaires. So they came up with laws that still exist today that protect the the industry that protects the companies from any liability and from having to prove safety. In fact, they don't even have to disclose the ingredients because it's proprietary, right? It's proprietary. So the EPA, the FDA, the USDA allows them to put chemicals into consumer products that they do not even have to list. And you know who got busted for that though? Recently, Roundup, right? So
right.
Roundup, and I know this is a chemical talk, a toxicity talk. But this is part of what is really sick around homes is what we do around our homes, and spraying Roundup. But Roundup got in trouble for this because, the active ingredient that they list, they do have to list the active ingredient. Do you know what the active ingredient in Roundup is? Do you know what it's called? It's called glyphosate, right? A lot of people have heard of that because Monsanto, which is now Bayer, got sued because of glyphosate, and glyphosate's everywhere, and it is very toxic. Well, there's studies that have been done where they looked at Roundup, they took Roundup and they looked at the chemical constituents. The inert ingredients, which they don't have to list, were hundreds of times more toxic than the glyphosate itself, right? And the reason why they did that is because the way the laws are is you only have to justify some level of safety for the inert ingredients, or you can have plausible deniability. But the inert ingredients are safe. You don't have to disclose what they are. You don't have to do an MSDS safety sheet on it or anything like that. And they knew this, and they knew that they were more toxic, and so they did get busted for that. But that's the industry we live in. That's the world we live in, and that's the country we live in, where we protect the interests of companies above health at all costs. And so my guess is, like with the drywall thing, Byron, is that drywall is made with a lot of formaldehyde and a lot of chemical binders, and so it was probably outgassing a ton. And yes, drywall is a very big source. Even normal drywall has a lot of formaldehyde in it. So and a lot of flame retardants in it, right? Because they don't want houses to just burn, go up in flames immediately. So they put a ton of flame retardants. And then in Florida or in Miami, where you are, in Southern California, where you are, Terry, they do, even here, they put a lot of mold and mildew resistant chemicals in there as well. And all of that stuff is outgassing. And there we are. I mean, that's one big source of chemicals in our homes.
Let's talk pasta, oats, grains, and more. I'm gluten-free, and this one item I can have without any consequences. Since we always talk about fueling our bodies the right way, that's where Guardian Grains comes in. No kidding. Their products are a massive shift towards healthy eating. Guardian Grains is all about healthy, sustainable grains that not only taste great, but are great for you and the planet. Whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, Guardian Grains has you covered with all kinds of nutrition that keep you going strong. Perfect for long days of just living life. Plus, knowing it's sustainably grown, that's a win-win. Sincere appreciation goes to the Guardian Grains for sponsorship of this episode and for making it easy to stay healthy while supporting sustainable farming. Click the link below the description to buy some of your own. You'll taste the difference.
You mentioned something about paint. You started to say something about the paint and how toxic paint is when you go through Home Depot and you look for your paint and what they're not allowed to tell you or what they don't want to tell you or they consider.
Right.
What would some things be, such as paint, that where could we find and what could they do on the cheap, to make some changes immediately?
Well, the first thing that I always recommend to my patients, and what I have done for many, many years, is to get a really good, high-quality air purifier. If you can't afford to rip your home down to the studs and remodel it, then an air purifier is really your best bang for your buck. And the air purifier that I recommend, there's lots of them out there, but it can't just be a filter, right? Although filters are important, it should really have like a carbon, some kind of carbon and zeolite, as well as a really um, uh, high rating filter for sure, because a lot of chemicals hitch a ride on dust, and then we breathe in the dust. So keeping your home clean and keeping those dust vehicles, if you will, that chemicals can latch onto and then get into our body. Keeping the dust down, keeping your home clean, not using really bad chemical cleaners. Don't use the things that don't use Windex, and don't use the traditional stuff. So there's air purifier. The one that I like, it's called Healthways. It's called Healthways. You can go online and their deluxe filter is actually really good. And just make sure it's got the carbon at the bottom. It's got a carbon and zeolite, and the reason why carbon and zeolite work, people take it internally because they're good binders. Well, they also work in the air too. They bind chemicals and take it out of the air. So that's a really good source of something that you can do. In terms of paint, really good if you're gonna paint a room, right? The average American repaints their inside every 5 to 10 years or so. So likely a lot of your viewers are going to be in the middle of a painting project. So the best source for healthy home products is a website called the Green Design Center, the Green Design Center. And yes, they use the word green, which doesn't necessarily mean healthy, but yes, all of their products are healthy. They vetted them, and it's been around a long time, back when green used to mean more healthy, but now green products aren't necessarily healthy. So there's paints that are clay based or milk based, milk pigments. And that truly, there's a company called AFM Safe Coat, and the Green Design Center sells that, and you can get it shipped directly to your house for wholesale prices. It's great. You can cut out the middleman, and you can get it shipped directly to you. So
Wow.
so it's a great, and they're really good customer service. They'll answer all your questions if if you're new at this, and they'll tell you what you need, what products you need. And so yeah, that's a really good source. But I wouldn't trust anything in Home Depot or Lowe's, or I just wouldn't. They're cheap paints. Well, paint isn't cheap, as you know now, but it's full of chemicals, and you don't want to be around that. You don't want you and your family to be around that, especially kids, babies, pregnant moms. Like, they're breathing all that stuff in. And as we talked about, at the last podcast, my specialty is fertility and preconception. So.
Hey Doc, if somebody were to let's say, have toxic paint,
Yeah.
can you paint over with the paint you're talking about? Like if you're painting your room, and would
Yeah.
it block the leaching?
Yeah, it'll block 90% of it. You might I would definitely do at least 2 coats. But the AFM Safe Coat does sell a sealing primer, right? So a healthy sealing primer. So if you do the sealing, not sealing, but a sealing primer, then yes, most of that will be sealed in, and it'll still outgas a little bit. I mean, chemicals have their way of moving through barriers and stuff. That's what makes them so dangerous. But yeah, that's a great way. You don't have to rip out the drywall. You don't have to scrape it. But yeah, we used to think lead paint was the only toxic paint, but no. Most of the paint that we are exposed to, it certainly isn't as bad as lead paint, but in some cases it could be worse.
Mickey, I'd like to mention 2 things. one, we could forget about ever having Home Depot as a sponsor for the Crackin'
Yeah,
Backs
that's
podcast.
right. At
But
least their
besides
paint
that-
department. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's all right. I don't care. No, but you did open
Maybe
up
the Green
doors for
Design
another
Center will.
opportunity with the other. Yeah, the green. So that's two things. We got paint and air purifiers. Give me three more things that we could do.
Yeah, I think what do we do most of the time when we're in our houses? We breathe air, right? 20,000 liters of air every day, and we drink a lot of water, right? Take showers, baths. We drink a lot of water. Make coffee, tea, whatever it is. We boil our water. We boil food. So really having water purifiers as well as air purifiers. And I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't know this 5 years ago when I built my healthy home. I didn't know that all of water pipes are now plastic. All of water pipes. They're phasing out copper. I mean, there's still applications where they use copper, but plastic's cheap and it leaches, And when you go online, if you do your own research, the number one complaint of water pipes being plastic is the plastic taste, right? Consumers, home buyers are like, man, it's the only complaint I have is this plastic taste. And well, if you have plastic taste in the water, it means you have plastic in the water, right? Like you don't get some phantom taste. The taster is actually chemicals. Your taste buds are reacting to a chemical, the plastic chemical, the phthalates and the plasticizers, because it's leaching. It leaches from day one, especially the hot water ones. I mean, can you imagine like just boiling water from your hot water heater is it's just ripping chemicals and plastics off. So the microplastics, right? And there was a study done by the Environmental Working Group, this is from the World Wildlife Foundation, about 4 years ago. It was in conjunction with the University of Australia or Auckland, New Zealand, and they measured the amount of microplastics that an average person gets exposed to, and they estimated. Now, granted, this is somewhat controversial, but they estimated that the average person consumes about a credit card's worth of plastic every week, about 5 grams of plastic every week. That's what we're ingesting. And we're ingesting it from our home, from our water in our home. We're ingesting it, some of the highest sources of microplastics. Where do you think they found it was interesting reading the study. Where do you think they found some of the highest sources of microplastics? I mean, this guess that we can see. What's that?
I don't know, I'm guessing. Your toothbrush. No.
Toothbrush? Yeah, I mean, to some extent, absolutely. No question, yeah. Beer and wine, right? Do you know why beer and wine was? Because they're highly processed, and they're processed on equipment that has a lot of plastic in there. The barrels are sometimes lined with plastics, and the pipes and the bottling mechanisms, and then of course cans of beer are lined with plastic inside, right? Have you guys heard? You guys have heard of BPA? I've heard of BPA.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a plastic that is starting to be phased out. It's banned in California, actually. Well, here's the problem with the VOC thing. Similar to the VOC, these companies know how to get around stuff. So BPA might be banned, but you still have to use some kind of plasticizer. So they will substitute it with something called BPF, right, or BPS. It's just another version of a bisphenol, which is what a BP stands for. And these are showing to be actually even more toxic, right? Because they're less studied.
Hey Doc, thank God you didn't mention whiskey, because if you you just did the beer and wine things, at least the whiskey distills the plastic.
Exactly.
While you're going down that, throw out some examples that people can buy purifiers from a simple somebody who doesn't make a lot. They can start a process to, the gold standard. Can you throw some companies out?
Yeah, there's a really simple water filter that you can buy, and you can screw it onto your tap. Um, it's called New Wave Enviro, and they sell a tabletop filter that is it does have a plastic housing, but studies have shown it filters most of that out through the filter, and then it comes out in a metal faucet or a spigot. No, you don't have to hire a plumber. You don't have to do anything. You just screw it into your faucet, and that's actually really helpful, because not only is there's plastic in our water, but the chemicals of concern, we call them. They're called chemicals of concern in water, and it's the things in our water that our municipal water plant, one, can't remove, and two, put in. Right? Our chemical water plants are city water plants, great at removing all of the viruses and bacteria that can kill us, right? And thank God for that. We have the cleanest water in the world for that. We have the most sterile water in the world, really, to be accurate. But we have some of the dirtiest water in the world when it comes to chemicals, because they can't be filtered out by traditional filtration methods. They can only be filtered out through reverse osmosis or through distillation. Distillation is way too energy consuming, and so is reverse osmosis. So picture this, guys. We're up here in Colorado, and we get somewhat clean water, but even acid rain has a lot of chemicals in it, right? So the snow that's falling now is not pure. I grew up in Golden, and what do we have in Golden? We have Coors Brewery, right? It's the home of Coors Brewery. And remember those commercials, like, brewed with Rocky Mountain spring water, right? Well, you don't see that anymore because it's not so clean anymore. It's certainly cleaner than the Arkansas River or the Mississippi River or the Colorado River when it gets to California. Sorry, Terry. It's been so polluted by the time it gets to California. But imagine this. We're here in Colorado. We get somewhat toxic, but probably the cleanest in the country, because this is the source of headwaters. But then, so let's say Boulder, right? Live near Boulder. All of us in Boulder, well, not me, but most people in Boulder, they use these toxic chemicals, or their bodies are full of chemicals. They take medications and drugs. That's all being peed into the water, right? And then that water just goes into the water filtration system, and we pee and poop it out, and all kinds of stuff are going. Someone washes their car, right? They wash their car with really bad chemicals. Where does that chemical go? They spray their lawn with glyphosate, right? With Roundup. Where does all that go? It goes all into the sewer system. It goes all then into the water filtration plant. That water filtration plant only has one job: to sterilize the water and to make it, to remove the dissolved solids. All these chemicals pass through 100%, through commercial water filtration plants. And then that goes into the river. So they did a study where they looked at fish just outside of Boulder, right? Just outside, so clean, you think it's clean. They looked at fish. There are so many endocrine disruptors just below the water filtration plant for Boulder, that the fish started to develop ambiguous genitalia, right? It messed up their hormones so bad, and it still is, that the fish now are kind of Aphroditic, you might say, or they have signs of both male and female genitalia. So imagine that repeated hundreds and hundreds of times. So by the time you get to, Miami, by the time water gets to Miami, or by the time water gets to Southern California, at least LA has some of their own mountains and stuff, but gosh, Houston or those places where the Mississippi and those rivers, imagine how many chemicals are in there. So any kind of water filtration that you can do is just really, really important.
So,
We
Doc,
had on an earlier show, we had Erin Brockovich, and all I can
Yes.
imagine is if she got her hands on this monstrous project because of plastics being
Yep.
used as piping for everywhere. I mean, all
Yes.
over. And
so so before we respond to that, Doc, I got a question. Before I develop a third testicle, what can I
Yeah.
put
Actually, you
blocking
won't
the
develop
water
a
from
third
my
testicle. You're going to develop an
yeah, you'll
ovary.
get a
That's
vagina.
before
Or
I
a
develop an
and
ovary?
man
What
boobs.
what
Man
can I?
boobs. Yeah.
Before I develop a third nipple, what
Yeah.
can I put that the water from the municipality before it enters my house?
Yes.
Because you can put something on screw for your sink to drink water, but I'm still showering, I'm still brushing my teeth, I'm still doing.
Yep.
So how do we? What's our bet? What company is our best solution for stopping it from our house or our business?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. The Green Design Center does have good water filters, whole house water filters. And so, but even like Culligan, I don't know if you guys have Culligan, right? It's a national, water. And they have decent whole house systems. And, good whole house systems with reverse osmosis, which is the gold standard of removing things, a good whole house water system, and then a reverse osmosis for drinking water and cooking water. It'll run you anywhere from 5 to 10,000, depending on some of the features that you choose to have. But at the very least, you can do a carbon filter, a whole house carbon filter. That usually will run you, a couple $1,000s. That's funny. I just got this. That's just in the mail yesterday. A must for a healthy home, and it's a company called Aquasana, which I have no idea who they are, but you can get a whole house, 50% off whole house filters for $99.99. Regularly $2,000, and it's $999. So I don't know the quality, but I'm just saying it's interesting. It's starting to become more aware. It's starting to become more known, and you're right, to do a whole house filter, and if you have an older home, if you have a home that's built before the early 2000s, I think around 2008 and 9 is when houses started to new home construction and remodel started to use plastic water piping. So a lot of older homes are still safe, but yeah.
What about you mentioned so if you have like a condo that's all plastic, well, you're not
Yeah.
going to go to the condo association, so that's you can put that stuff on your filters in your sink. You mentioned
Yeah.
something else earlier, and you mentioned clean products because everybody
Yeah.
cleans. What's some like home remedies? Because one time you mentioned something about citrus and water and
Yeah.
vinegar. What's some clean products that people can clean their home that they're not breathing in those toxic chemicals?
Yeah, I mean, there are different levels, right? I would say the step up from, your Clorox. I mean, Johnson and Johnson, uh, they're one of the biggest chemical producers, and they own a lot of cleaning companies. And so, if it's from Johnson and Johnson or Dow Chemicals, right, I would get rid of it. Clorox bleach is owned by Dow Chemicals. I mean, um, you know. Yeah, there's just so many that are toxic that we don't even know. But the one step up is like seventh generation, still owned, I think, by Procter and Gamble, which is another, But seventh generation, it's everywhere. Whole Foods and Target and Walmart, you can get some seventh generation. Not great. It's still not 100% clean, but it's a step up. It's a little bit better. There's still chemicals, surfactants, and some phthalates and stuff like that. But some of the big offenders certainly are removed with those products. And then you can get into making your own. And one of the things that I like to do is just get a pure white vinegar. You can get organic white vinegar, so it doesn't have the chemical residues in there. And then my kids love those little oranges. What are they called? The little the little ones, cuties or something, yeah. And you can get those, make sure they're organic. And, just have them save the peels, or you save the peels. You put it in a mason jar, put the peels in the mason jar, let them dry out first, and then pour the vinegar in the mason jar and let it sit for about 2 weeks. And then you have, a really fresh, citrusy smelling, citrus is a really good cleaner. The citric acid is a very good cleaner, and the acid that's in vinegar is a very good cleaner. And you can use that for everything. You can use that for your tubs and showers and countertops and floors. And you just get a spray bottle. Of course, the spray bottle has some plastic, so you don't have to do that if you're a purist. But you can just use that everywhere. And then, it also, pure white vinegar is a good window cleaner as well. A lot of people don't know that. But then there are other companies that are a little bit better. There's a company called BioClean, BioKleen. Those are a little bit better. And this leads me to a really important point too. One of the most toxic things that we do to our bodies is laundry detergent, so thinking of seventh generation and these things, laundry detergent is so toxic. It really is, right? Have you guys seen those commercials where, they're like, oh my God, your clothes smell so good, and they go off into this dream state of, being on the beach. It's because their brain's being destroyed by the chemicals and they're hallucinating is really what that commercial is saying. But it's true. Those Downy and Gain, they're so toxic, so toxic. So get rid of your fresh smelling, laundry detergent. I use a brand, and there are many out there. BioClean is pretty good. There's another brand called Meliora, and it's just sodium carbonate and bicarbonate and really, and then just essential oils with lavender. So no one's saying you have to walk around smelling like a monkey, but you don't have to smell like, some chemical perfume, fragrance, commercial. So that's a really, really important point too, is to watch not just the cleaners, but your own soaps and detergents and everything that you're putting on and near your body.
Here's a very stealth thing that goes on that a lot of people might not think about, and that is those of us who have dogs, which I know that Dr. Terry does, and I imagine you do too.
Yep, I do.
We get people that come in and spray for insects, spray for bugs and things like that. Yep. And I've asked, I go, is that stuff safe? And of course, they're going to... Actually, I'm more concerned about my dog because of how sensitive they're smelling.
Exactly.
So I'll ask, and they go, oh, yeah, it's safe. How can we find out if it's for real, if it's really safe or not?
Yeah. Good point. You do have to...
bullshitting me, actually.
They are, and whether they're knowingly doing it or not, some of them truly believe it, and because that's what it says on the bottle, right? But you have to remember, this industry is self-regulated, right? It is not third-party regulated. The EPA is virtually toothless at this point. It really, and the EPA itself deals with a scientific framework that's outdated. And I use this example that we can't trust the EPA necessarily. It's better than nothing. But the EPA has reduced their safe level of lead over 70 times since the 1960s. Right? Because they study it and they're like, oh, this level's safe. It's safe. You're okay. Oh shoot. Well, a little more evidence comes in. Nope, this level is safe. I think. Oh shoot, another. Yep. No, this we. Oh yeah. Well, when we so it used to be that where they would look at just cancer. Like, oh yeah, this level you won't get cancer, but you get a third nipple down here, right? Right. And so okay, we don't want third nipples, so let's kind of go down a little bit more, and So we can't, the EPA is better than nothing in many ways, but it certainly isn't perfect. And so when they say oh yeah, these are safe. What you can do as a consumer, the one thing we can do is ask for an MSDS, a materials and safety data sheet. Now, they can skirt around that by saying it's proprietary, right? But every chemical, every company has to, by law, by request, give you the MSDS safety sheets for every chemical that they're using. Okay. So then what you can do is you can take that MSDS, assuming that they're not just outright lying, which some chemicals do or some companies do. A lot of companies don't, thanks to Aaron Brockovich and other pioneers that keep chemical companies somewhat accountable. You know, they're not blatant about it anymore. So you can ask for the MSDS, and then you can just do the research. You can look at the chemicals, which, you know, some of them are 100 words long, right? Or letters long. But you can Google it, and you can start doing some research, and you'll see what this chemical is, what it's been studied, what it's been related to, and I've done that. I've done that even with some of the stuff that I get from the Green Design Center. I'm like, you know, I want to make sure. You know, Andy, who's the owner of the Green Design Center, has already done this, but I'm my own researcher, and so I'm like, I want to know, and so even some of the natural products have chemicals in it, and you're like, wow, that's, you know, that doesn't sound safe. You know, isobuto, you know, phthalate, proprio, you know, cyanate. That doesn't sound very safe, you know. And you do the research, and sure enough, it's not very safe. So
Am I asking the exterminator for the MSDS, or am I asking what product that he uses, and then I ask the product company?
there is a law, at least in Colorado, I think it's a national law, that if a commercial company like you know, Pest Rid or whatever, you know, what is the Orkin, you know, or whatever, the Orkin man, if they're the end user, they have to provide the consumer with those MSDSs. They do. So you should be able to request that from the commercial applicant, okay, or the applicator. The commercial applicator has to do that. And that's a great point, though, Terry or Byron, because if you know, there are so many things that are sprayed in our house for pests, and we think that they're safe because we can't see them, touch them, smell them, and there are a lot of natural options for your pets. So the pet collars, right, that keep fleas and ticks away, really, really toxic. These are neurotoxins. They're neurotoxins, and they're not safe if you really look at the and even the medications that they take, or the lotions and the shampoos. My goodness, these are so toxic, and this is exactly what you have to be aware of. So that's a great point, Byron. That's really good. There are natural options too. So if you have mice in your house, you can do natural pest removal, and that is becoming an industry as well, natural pest removal. There are natural citrus agents that you can use to repel pests now that don't have any chemicals in them, but I would still ask for an MSDS sheet on those. But there are companies in probably every major city that advertises themselves to be chemical-free, natural pest removals. And in terms of pets, there's also a lot of natural pet products now. So we do live in an age where there are a lot of options to us, but we also live in the most toxic age ever, and it's getting worse by the day.
Yeah, I realized while you're talking, we're focused on the home. We're focused now on things for the pets, but
yeah,
what we have to also take under consideration. We've had several nutritionists on the program.
Yeah,
and we're realizing that you got highly processed foods in the United States that are really driving the food economy here. So,
yeah.
And now you're talking about the house. So we're getting adulterated from all these different areas that we have to, really take control in some
Yep.
area here. And
Absolutely.
I want to ask you about another thing that's very stealth that most people don't realize.
Yeah.
The carpet that we're
Yes.
walking barefoot on.
Yeah,
Can you
exactly.
address that?
Yeah, so you asked me a little while ago, what are three other things, right? So we've got the water, and we've got the paint, and now we have the air. So the other thing is flooring, and carpets are, and I'll get to the fifth one after this, but the carpets are, again, recycled plastics, and they're sprayed with stain resistance, right, and odor resistance. So they're full of chemicals that keep it smelling good and lasting long. So it's got Scotchgard, which is PFOS. PFOS is a known endocrine disruptor. It causes diabetes in children. It causes diabetes in adults. It causes, it's been linked to autism. Your baby's crawling around on it. You're walking on it barefoot. You're getting down and you're stretching, and it's all getting absorbed through your skin. And of course, when you walk, the dust comes up from it. And there's some videos you can Google, dust coming up from someone walking in the carpet, and they'll have time-lapse video, and when you walk, all this stuff comes up, and you're breathing that in. So even if you have toxic carpet, keeping it clean, but it's really difficult to keep clean, because every time you vacuum it, you're loosening up microplastics, right? And it's getting into the air. So in terms of budgeting for a healthy home, flooring is one of the top things that you want to look at. So in my healthy home that I built, which if we have time at the end, I can give a quick description of everything that I did if someone's really interested in how do I build a healthy home from the ground up. But in my home, I used wool carpet, 100% wool carpet, and then you can do jute padding. So jute is kind of like a rubber tree, and very
that.
soft.
Spell jute.
Jute.
Okay.
Jute. Jute. And it's really soft. It's durable. Wool carpets, it's definitely more expensive, but they tend to last 20 years or more. They have natural stain resistant in them because of the natural oils in wool, right? And that's why it's really good for clothing as well. So there's some good companies out there. Again, the Green Design Center. Hardwood flooring. There's I heard some researcher when I went to an environmental medicine conference once talking about just the chemicals and how they interrupt testosterone, and I thought this is something that I came up with myself, and I use this in my lectures. Most hardwoods make you not have hardwood. Did you get that? Did you get that? All right, you got that. That's good. You got it. All right. It took Terry a second, but Byron got it really quick.
No,
yes.
I had it. I let Spencer have the glory.
Okay. But yeah, you walk around on these even hardwood floorings. They're covered with oil-based stains, and then those oil-based stains are covered with really hard plastics, really high chemicals, because it has to be liquid, and then it has to harden, and to make something that hardens that's liquid, it requires a ton of chemicals, and it has to resist UV radiation. And so most of the coverings of hardwood floors are super toxic, and you're walking on that barefoot, and a lot of endocrine disruptors. Now, hardwood floors in general are better for you than any other flooring, except wool carpet. So linoleum is extremely toxic. You get the glues. It's not only plastic itself, very highly leachable plastic, but then you get all the glues that's under it, right? Tile can be good, but you do have to use the right mortar, you do have to use the right grout, and you do have to use a non-toxic sealer. It's the sealers on tile and all that kind of stuff that makes it really, really toxic as well. So all of that you can do through, again, the Green Design Center. It's such a wonderful resource. I really, I don't have any financial relationship with them at all, but what a cool source. Somebody really understanding. He's been doing this for 20 years, understanding the need of how toxic our homes are, and how can we have products that improve that quality a little bit. So hardwood floors are really, or all flooring, as you said, is really, really important. So yeah, even the corn-based ones, right? You get the green flooring, right? You get green flooring. Oh, it's recycled plastic, or it's made out of corn, right? It sounds good. But again, they have to use a ton of plasticizers, and that's how you get more and more plastics in your home, so or in your body. So yes, flooring, absolutely key.
So the holidays are coming,
Mm-hmm.
and people do things different. Like they burn candles.
Yeah.
They bring in a Christmas tree, or
Yep.
Hanukkah candles and things like that. So yeah, and that you have the Christmas trees, I always heard, were sprayed with chemicals when they were being harvested. And then the candles for your Hanukkah,
Yep.
these burn chemicals as
Absolutely.
well. You have any suggestions
Yeah.
during the holidays when you're supposed to be happy and healthy?
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? It's yeah. It reminds me of what I often say about a first birthday, right? For someone who's got a first birthday, and what do we do for someone who with their first birthday? They're eating chocolate cake, and it's got gluten and dairy and sugar, and you're like, oh, look at Johnny, he's having such a great time while he's developing autism as we speak, So, but Christmas is kind of like that too, Yeah, it's. Uh, there are a lot of natural candles. You want to look at natural beeswax candles. Even natural beeswax does give off some soot, but natural beeswax does clean the air as well, because it releases negative ions that can latch on to chemicals and kind of bring them down and make them a little bit more inert. So beeswax candles are a great option. If in Colorado, you can go cut your own tree, but then of course I feel sorry for the tree. So, that's a really tough one. And then you don't want the plastic tree either, because that's full of plastic and that does outgas. And you are 100% correct. Most commercial tree companies, they spray their trees with a ton of chemicals to make it last greener. So these are preservatives, benzoates, and they even spray it with some air, chemicals that make it smell more like a Christmas tree. So you can search around. Certainly the ones that are being sold in the Walmart parking lot, probably not the ones that you want. No offense to Walmart, although they are the greatest source of chemicals in the home and for the bodies for the most part.
Well, there goes Home Depot and Walmart as our
Yeah,
sponsors,
and
so,
who
And
else?
Tide.
That's right. Dow Chemicals, Procter and Gamble. Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys. Yeah, sorry, but
Can you
it's
imagine
kind of like.
that would be very contradictory.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the Matrix, right? Once you swallow the red pill, you can't. There's no going back. And Byron, you kind of had that aha moment of like, we are really truly being bombarded at every level. It's our food, it's our beauty products, it's our home, it's our workplace, it's our cars. Like, and it doesn't mean that we are helpless, though. It's about getting this out and doing these kinds of podcasts. So thank you guys for doing it. And
There was a fifth. There was a fifth thing that we could change.
Yep.
Before we go into rapid fire questions. What was that? Was there a fifth, or did we cover it, or was there a fifth element that we could change? There was the air, the water, purified water. There was the carpet, the paint.
Yep.
Was there a fifth one?
Yep. So the fifth one is what else do you do in your home the most? What do you do what do you do in your house? What does everyone do for at least 7 to 9 hours, hopefully?
Sleep.
The bed.
Sleep. Okay? Your bed and your pillows are a huge source of toxins, okay? And they're full of chemicals, flame retardants, because they don't want people. Ever since the 70s and 60s, when idiots would smoke in bed and then spontaneously combust themselves, you know the you know the industry is and the EPA has mandated that most furniture, okay, so not just home or not just your bed. So I'm going to say that the fifth category is your furniture, including bedding. They've mandated that it be sprayed with a ton and built in to it with a ton of flame retardants, and these are forever chemicals. Most flame retardants are forever chemicals, and you're being intimate in and with your bed, right? I mean, you're breathing it in. Your whole body is touching the bed, and it leaches through your sheets, and of course, if you wash your sheets, like I said, with Gain, so it smells good, you're getting a double whammy there. So there are natural mattresses that you can do. A lot of people have rubber allergies, and so there's rubber beds that are great for some people. But even if you don't want that, there's 100% organic and non-toxic companies out there. Avocado is one you can get online. Avocado is a company that makes green and healthy beds. And then there's a company here in Boulder, and they have several stores. It's called Urban Mattress. So you can type in Colorado Urban Mattress, and they'll ship anywhere in the country. And there's a brand that I use that I love this bed. I've had it for about 5 years now. It's called Bloom, and great mattress. It's got like a wool topper to it, and just really comfortable. It comes in different softnesses, different firmnesses. So that's a really important option. And then your pillow as well. Your pillow is usually filled with toxic flame retardants and mildew and mold retardants, and so getting something that is 100% natural, and there's a lot of them out there. It's organic cotton, and then it's filled with maybe buckwheat, or it's filled with 100% cotton inside as well. So there are a lot of options, and that's huge, because most pillows are made with foam, and you have to remember, so is memory foam. It is foam. These are made with petroleum byproducts, and petroleum byproducts are toxic. And so, just do what you can. If you have a mattress that you just bought and you can't return, and it's toxic, of course, letting it outgas. The first 90 days is when it outgasses the most. So having an air purifier and changing your sheets, every couple of days, these are things that can make a big difference. You can also get a semi-permeable organic mattress topper, and it's like it's stain resistant, somewhat stain or water repellent. And that will keep some of the outgassing. You can wrap it in that, and it also keeps the mattress safe from stains and stuff too. So you can go online. You can talk to Urban Mattress, and they have organic mattress covers that are water repellent, and that will keep some of the outgassing down as well. So even if you just spent a couple grand on a new mattress and it's toxic, there's also Facebook Marketplace. You can give it away to some unsuspecting person and buy a new one. So, but yes, that's your furniture. The last thing I'll say too about that is we spend a lot of time on the couch too. Some of us, and our chairs. And looks like Terry, you've got a wood one that looks good. But what is the padding made out of. So there are companies out there. There's one in Southern California called STEM Furniture, STEM, and they make 100% organic furniture as well, custom made if you want.
I'm writing all this stuff down.
Yeah, that's great. And there are companies that will take your old furniture and reupholster it and use all natural stuff. So we do have options. I ended up getting a really nice leather couch, and leather is super toxic. Most leathers are, I don't have time to get into all the tannings that they do, and then the coverings that they do. But even I don't know if you guys have heard of Arhaus, Arhaus. It's kind of a slightly higher end furniture store. Certainly we have out here something called American Furniture Warehouse. Anything that says warehouse in the name, you probably want to avoid, because lumber liquidator warehouse, right? It's all coming from China. But you do have options, and they don't necessarily break the bank. But furniture is number 5 for sure. So we've got air, we've got water, we've got flooring, we've got your paint and walls, and then we've got your furniture and bedding. And those 5 make up the most toxicity in your home. And so removing those and phasing those out can make a big difference to your overall health. Brain fog, it can eliminate brain fog. I've helped patients do that, and it's changed their life and helps them lose weight, because we are getting so many toxins through our home that we can't see, touch, smell, taste, hear, and they really are causing problems. So thank you guys for recognizing. I think it was like one sentence that I said last time, and you guys really caught on to that. So that was cool.
What was amazing is that you brought back the memory of when I was listening to some of the upperclassmen at Texas Chiropractic College, and they were having difficulty with a case that a woman was so sick, and they were trying to help her for a month or so, and they couldn't figure it out. Somebody went in and kept asking, about history and everything. Someone finally narrowed it down to the fact that she would sit in a particular area of the couch every night, and that had a small tear that exposed the foam that made contact with her body, and the foam was highly toxic. I think formaldehydes or something like that. And she was very sensitive to it. The moment she got rid of the couch, she got better.
That's right. Exactly, man.
So
that's like
that hits it out of the ballpark. That was a big one that you mentioned.
You got it.
I want to get into the rapid fire questions, but I have tremendous fear because I don't think they're going to be very rapid. But we're going to try.
We're going to try. Give me how many words I can use.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. Okay. Look. All right. Rapid fire.
Okay.
You're a bright guy and you're quick on your feet. Let's see if you can take on the challenge.
All right.
If you could design a dream home, a healthy home on the planet Mars, what's one feature it would absolutely need for human wellness?
A lot of sunlight. A lot of sunlight, right? You've got to have a lot of sunlight. Something we didn't talk about in terms of health. We talked about, focusing on chemicals, but a truly healthy home has a lot of windows. You can see this place has a lot of windows, and I am adamant that, and studies have proven that you need skylights, you need windows, you need natural light. Natural light is what we thrive on. All of our hormones are dependent on it. Our brain is dependent on it. We need a lot of natural light. So if you live in a dark home, at least get outside as much as possible. And then the last thing.
How many words was that?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's not bad.
It's juicy. It's
20
juicy
seconds, 30
information.
seconds, yeah.
So we're not counting words. We're counting timing now. All right.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. You are hosting a dinner party at your wellness-centered home. What's the one health hack ingredient you'd secretly add to every dish to supercharge your guest vitality?
I would add glutamine. Glutamine. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless, and glutamine helps heal leaky gut. It helps your brain function better. they would never know it's there. And glutamine is something that I take every day. So I love glutamine.
I love that answer. That was great, man. All right, question number 3.
Yeah.
If you were stuck in a snowstorm in the mountains and could choose one book to read by the fire, what book would we find in your hands?
Oh boy, one book. Probably something on endocrine disruptors. It's probably one. I love reading that stuff. Actually, no, my secret love is sci-fi westerns. So they're like sci-fi westerns. Either sci-fi or a western, but if they can combine them, I love sci-fi westerns. So there was a TV show, I think or a movie called Serenity, based on a TV show, and it's both western and sci-fi. So I don't know, I love going off into sci-fi and western stuff. It's mindless and it lets my brain relax.
The sci-fi movie I remember was with Yul Brynner, like Westworld or something like that. That was like 100 years ago. I just showed my age. All right.
Oh, Yul Brynner?
Yul Brynner. Yes. I'm telling you.
From the 60s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He had a good western though, called The Magnificent Seven. One of my favorites.
Yes.
The original one.
You know this?
Oh yeah, man. Old westerns. I could geek out on old westerns all day, man. I love old westerns.
And the new Magnificent Seven wasn't nearly as good as the
No,
original.
it wasn't. They just tried to make it bloody and violent. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. Question number 4. In the spirit of wellness, if you could choose one, would you rather have a home with perfect air quality but terrible water, or pristine water but awful air quality?
Wow, that's a tough one, man. That's a really, really tough one. I think because air goes directly into our lungs and into our body, I would have to choose clean air over the clean water, because at least when we drink water, our liver has a chance to filter it out, right? Our liver does its job. It's called the first pass effect. When we breathe stuff in, it goes directly into our bloodstream and to the rest of the body unfiltered. And so I'd have to choose clean air, no doubt.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what, that question alone reminds me of my 2 kids that would sit in the back seat of the car and they'd go, all right, would you rather burn in a fire or drown in the water?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Neither,
my kids just asked me that the other day. Exactly.
No.
It kind of turned morbid. Would you like your skin peeled off, or would you like to be burned? What are you guys learning in school? This is insane.
And it just got more morbid from there. So, I mean, geez. All right. Last question. This is great. Last question. You're a huge advocate for healthy environments, obviously. What's the most unhealthy, guilty pleasure you have in your home that would probably surprise your patients? Be candid.
My guilty pleasure is chips. And I have good chips, like they're late July, but they're still right. They still have a lot of oil and sunflower oil and refined seed oils and stuff. So that would be probably my guilty pleasure. I love chips and that crunch. So I don't have it every day, but that's something that I tell my patients to not do until they're healthier. But that's the one thing that I like.
I love it. it. Terry, you got one? You got a guilty pleasure?
You're gonna make me do candid, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine are chips too, but go ahead.
Donuts.
Holy night! Really?
Donuts are addictive.
Wow.
I have them. I probably have them more maybe once or twice a year, but I'll have patients bring in as a thank you donuts. And if they're a good donut,
What kind? What kind of donut?
The worst ones: the cinnamon rolls, the twists, and the glazed.
That reminds me, my absolute love are eclairs, and there's a place in Longmont where I live and work that makes gluten-free, dairy-free eclairs. It's filled with coconut cream, so at least you can feel better about it.
No, I go all in.
You go all in.
The once or twice a year, I'm not going for a healthy donut. If I'm gonna have one, I'm
totally.
going just a good, and they have to be fresh. I have to have them the day they were made.
Totally. Yeah, if you're gonna do
funny. Go for it. That's great.
Yeah. How about you? How about you, Byron? You don't get off easy. You said chips.
Oh no. I said chips, but man, I could abuse the chip department. It's just it's and it's not just the taste and everything. It's like constantly moving. I realize that I think better when I'm like, working and chewing on chips.
Because it's releasing dopamine.
Yep.
It's getting your serotonin and dopamine. Yep, going. Yep, that's right.
And mine's releasing the glucose coma. So
exactly. Hey, we won't talk about the chemicals in fried foods, right? Donuts are really fried. The acrylamide.
All right. So on that note, hey Doc, we're gonna wrap this up. Hey, so thank you so much for your time, and we so appreciate you, man. You're just such a wealth of knowledge, and so thank you and those listening. Start with those 5 things. I mean, what's the worst thing can happen? You feel better.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I love it. And anytime you want to have me on to give brief and not so brief answers, I'll be there. Anytime you want a long-winded answer, I'll be there.
You are definitely a storehouse for just an information and a list of things that we can exercise those resources. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks for what you do too.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Crackin Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.